Well, it's your favorite two hosts back at it again with more science, more paranormal ghost stories and creepies. And we're here to entertain, educate, and rehabilitate. Whatever that means. I'm still in the Texas kind of.
James, you ate.
I ate? Is that a new term? I've heard that now recently.
Like
ate.
ate.
Is it
like
a
you
good
ate.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like if you show up in like a really nice outfit, that outfit ate. I don't know why I'm snapping. All of a sudden I'm like really sassy.
I've just heard that like ate earlier today, and now I'm here.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's just a sudden new thing now.
Yeah. James is a little bit older than I am.
I'm not up to date on all the lingo, you know?
He's not up to date.
And the groove.
What has become of us?
What has become of us? Are you now from the 1800s? What has become of us? All right, I got a creepy one for you today.
Oh!
Speaking of the 1800s.
Oh!
Yeah.
Got really excited. Why don't you, Let's
get right to it.
Why don't you get right to it?
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
All right, Anna. So in Victoria-era England, residents of London began reporting attacks by a strange figure, a man so eerie he was often described as a ghostly or devil-like creature. Witnesses claimed that he had clawed hands, metallic, red glowing eyes, and wore a black cloak that made him look almost like he had wings. Almost like a little Batman type fella. But he would attack at random. Sometimes he'd knock on people's doors. When they answered, he'd slash at them with his claws. Other times he'd ambush pedestrians strolling down the street at night, leaving them in a panic. But what made him most infamous was his supposed ability to leap long distances, earning him the nickname Spring-Heeled Jack. He'd kind of jump across buildings. There's a famous painting of him leaping across the building. He's got his legs up like this, and he looks kind of like a little devilish kind of trickster. But he would attack people and harm them. One of the most well-known sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack was on February 19th of 1838. Jane Alsop received a knock on her door from a man in a large cloak who claimed to be a police officer. He told her to bring a light, saying, quote, "We have caught Spring-Heeled Jack here in the lane." When she brought him a candle, he threw his cloak off and, according to the paper at the time, presented a most hideous and frightful appearance with eyes like red balls of fire. He then breathed blue and white flames out of his mouth before he started attacking her. He tore into her gown with his claws, which she described as being of some metallic substance. A scuffle started as she's trying to fight this guy off.
Scuffle?
A scuffle, yep. A rowdy scuffle, as they would call it back then.
1800s.
And Jane cries for help. Ended up alerting her sister, who came downstairs. It was like, "Oh my!" and the attacker fled into the night.
Oh my!
9 days after this attack, 18-year-old Lucy Scales and her sister were returning home after visiting her brother. So as they passed by the alley, they noticed a man standing in the dark. As Lucy walked closer, the figure attacked, and he started slashing at them and stuff, and they screamed for help. And then their brother, whose house they were just at, ran down. He's like, "What the hell's going on here?" and chased the guy off. And apparently the description of this man was very similar to the attack that happened just before this. And there were lots of stories about this. In fact, the story started spreading all the way over to like parts of Scotland and like Edinburgh and Glasgow. And people would talk about the Spring-Heeled Jack character. So it even went outside of England. So bizarre. But the stories kind of died down after, the 1800s. They started to die off. But I always found this one interesting because it was a guy who would leap across buildings,
It's also Spider-Man.
It was kind of like, a superhero, but a bad one, though.
Yes,
like a super villain, they'd say.
What, isn't there a bad Spider-Man?
Yeah, there's there's Venom. You got the symbiote Spider-Man. And, but theories are, was this just one rowdy individual? Was it copycats? Was it some sort of entity, or was it just some guy dressing up and being a bit of a freak? You know, that's the question.
Maybe like a Jack the Ripper copycat situation.
Interesting. This was before Jack the Ripper made that.
So did anyone die on the hands of this guy?
I don't think anyone died. It was just kind of like violent attacks. You know, people were injured.
How long before Jack the Ripper was it? Could this have been him amping up?
This one started in you know, I mean, the most famous 1838 was the first. When was Jack the Ripper doing his thing? I'm gonna look it up.
Let's find out. What's his name? The leaping.
Spring-heeled Jack.
Yeah. I mean.
Right. It's interesting that they both have Jacks. So Jack the Ripper was doing his thing in 1888.
Oh, it's probably not. Yeah,
his
probably
spree.
not. Maybe it was
People
Jack
didn't live long,
Senior.
Jack Senior. He said, "Well, no, I'm gonna do."
That was really good.
My son was Spring-heeled Jack. I'm gonna be Jack Senior. I'm not gonna be him though. Oh no, he would have been saying his
dad
dad
was Spring-heeled Jack.
Well, he wasn't smart. My dad was Spring-heeled Jack. I'm not gonna be Spring-heeled Jack too. I'm gonna be Jack the Ripper. I'm gonna rip people apart.
Oh,
right?
that was really good.
Thank you. Well, I'm
Don't be like them.
No, don't be them.
Interesting. His dad was probably always like, "You can't be Springy."
Yeah, exactly. You'd say that.
And he said, "Oh yeah, well I could kill people."
Yeah. I'm gonna be Springy one day, Dad. No, you're not.
Well, you know
Get
what?
out of here.
I'm gonna be even better than you, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. Had a little competition. I'm gonna actually kill people. What? You're gonna kill people?
Starting with you.
Oh, light goes off. All right, Hannah.
Alrighty.
What do you got for us?
Well, my scientific horror takes place in the year 1518 in a small town called Salzburg, which is in France, believe it or not Germany. But at the time, it was part of the Holy Roman Empire. Everything was all good that year until midsummer rolled around, and a woman named Francesca began to dance.
Okay.
Not a joyful, celebratory kind of dance, but a writhing, twisting, uncontrollable, jerky, frantic, as if someone was taking control of her body kind of dance.
It still sounds like a good dance.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd watch that for
in
sure.
the club, we all fan. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop. And then all of a sudden, more people joined in. And over the course of the next several days, hundreds of people, men, women, and children, joined her in the seemingly uncontrollable urge to dance. Some danced for hours, others for days, until they either collapsed from exhaustion or, in some more extreme cases, dropped dead. This is due to what scientists refer to as the dancing plague of 1518, one of the most confusing and unfortunately comical epidemics in history. It's also one of the biggest and most perplexing scientific mysteries because what the In total, there were an estimated 400 dancers affected by the strange dancing trend, none of which seemed to have control over their bodies whatsoever. Doctors at the time were mystified. They blamed it on everything from hot blood to demonic possession, but I'm not stepping on your toes, I promise. Several victims, as I said, died from either exhaustion, stroke, or even heart attack. And to this day, no one knows exactly what caused the strange movement in European history, but some historians believe it was due to a mass psychogenic illness, what would be known today as mass hysteria. Essentially, they believe that the stress and fear of living in a time of disease, famine, and harsh conditions could have possibly driven people to dance as a form of psychological release, which would suggest that the dancers weren't physically compelled to move, but instead the victims were part of a collective delusion. But there is another possibility: ergot poisoning.
Okay. Go on.
What is ergot?
What is that?
Ergot is a fungus that grows on damp rye, which is used to make beer. And it can also produce a powerful hallucinogenic chemical called ergotamine, which causes symptoms like delirium, spasms, and uncontrollable movements. So this theory is far more likely. And it also suggests that the townspeople were unknowingly consuming contaminated rye bread. Or beer, if you're frisky, Miss Jackson. It caused them to experience the hallucinations and uncontrollable movements. While this might sound strange, what is even stranger is that despite the obvious danger, local authorities in the town of Strasbourg encouraged the dancing for some reason. They even hired musicians to keep the dancers moving, hoping that they would eventually dance off whatever was tormenting them. But as you can imagine, they just kind of got really ill or died. The effects were disastrous, and the authorities' attempts to just keep it going caused way more chaos than likely needed. For weeks on end, this plague continued. It wasn't just like a day or a couple hours, and then it suddenly ended out of nowhere, just as quickly as it began, after a bunch of people collapsed or died. And to this day, the dancing plague of 1518 remains unsolved, although it was likely the
toxin,
yeah,
the fungus.
Yeah. I mean, it probably wasn't a psychological breakdown, but if it was, it would have been the first documented case of mass hysteria in the world. Documented. So, yeah, we'll never really know what caused people to literally dance themselves to death. I'd like to think, though, it was probably the toxins, or mass hysteria is also a very viable scientific option. I don't think it was demons. I'm sorry, James. I don't.
Well, you don't need to be sorry. Yeah, that's always one that you said it was one of the most comical events. I've always found that horrifying. You imagine just people just dancing yourself to death, and they just can't. Is this woman just dancing in the street, and she's just going nuts?
The
and
visual?
all these people are doing it.
It's not funny with the visual.
Oh, horrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Man, well, that tops it. That tops the scariest parties in the world until Diddy's freak-off started happening.
Oh my god.
And then it just got real bad.
Oh my god.
But at least nobody died of those, that we know of. What?
Anyways,
cut to voting now.
Yeah, it's time to figure out what is more interesting: the Leaping Jack Man,
Let's just do it without the light. It's probably fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
or the Dancing Plague of 1518. 1815? 1518.
1518. Yep.
Let's
I
get
know
into
more
it.
about it than I'm just kidding. All right. We're gonna cover our eyes as usual, and I'm 1. She's 2.
On the field, not in your hearts.
1, 2, 3. Let's tie again.
Oh no.
Well, you know what time it is now. All right. Rock, paper, scissors. Oh wait, sorry. Let's go again.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I love it here. It's time to punish James.
So, this is a shot of vodka
With
ground crickets
and
1 whole cricket at the top, which looks extra. They're different when they're dry, but when they start to get wet, it takes all the crap off them, and now it just looks like a cricket in my drink.
See?
You could see like the leg and everything. Like it's very.
Oh,
clear.
well, because I think they're like ranch seasoned crickets. So I can see.
Yeah.
So basically, you're taking a shot of vodka with ranch seasoning, which is bad enough as it is, full of cricket grounds.
Yeah.
And 1 pièce de résistance.
And Hannah also informed me before this that crickets eat a lot of pesticides, and they kind of just become what they eat. So now I'm just drinking a bunch of pesticides along with
Science.
Oh, that's sickening. That is sickening. Ew, Christ. It's not like, it's not gonna. Oh, the aftertaste is bad too, but
I feel like the shot would be the worst
it's
part.
just nasty. Like if you were forced to, sitting right there, if you were forced to drink that like all night, you would throw up.
I think if you were forced to drink
ill.
vodka all night, you'd probably throw up.
Yeah, but I mean, if this was the only option you had, sorry, we're all out of everything. We only have cricket
We've
vodka.
only got cricket vodka left. Yeah.
you'd have a horrible time. That was really gross. Thanks, folks, for watching.
There's some left in that glass
Yeah.
there. A lot left in that glass there. Oh, it moves slow. It moves so slow. You don't have to do it anymore. I'm
That was just
sorry.
vodka flavored cricket grounds. Oh,
Thanks for watching.
Jesus. That was disgusting.